Okay, picture this, an empire that lasts for more than 600 years, a power that sprawls across continents, and then imagine it all just crumbles. Today, we're diving right into the dramatic collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the truly chaotic and, you could say, controversial birth of the modern Middle East.
I mean, just look at the sheer scale of this map. When World War I kicked off, the Ottoman Empire was absolutely immense, this huge, sprawling, multi-ethnic state. But, beneath that surface, the foundations were already cracking. And that was setting the stage for one of the biggest geopolitical shakeups of the entire 20th century. So for decades, right, the other European powers had this pretty unflattering nickname for the Ottoman Empire, the sick man of Europe. And by the 19th century, look, this wasn't just some clever phrase anymore. It was the reality on the ground. This once mighty empire was in a really steep and what looked like an irreversible decline. And the real core of this weakness? It was all internal. For centuries, the empire had somehow managed to hold together this incredible mosaic of different peoples. But by the time the Great War kicked off, that loyalty, that glue, had pretty much evaporated. And this was especially true among its Arab subjects.
And right at this time, this incredibly powerful new idea was just sweeping across the globe: nationalism. And think about how revolutionary this was. Instead of being loyal to some distant sultan in this massive multi-ethnic empire, people started to feel this powerful allegiance to their own people, their own language, their own culture. And for the Arabs living inside the Ottoman Empire, this idea was about to change absolutely everything.
So as World War I explodes and engulfs the globe, Arab nationalists see their chance. They see an opening. They decide, okay, now's the time to make a bid for our own independent nation, right in the middle of all this chaos. And that decision, it's what sparked the famous Arab Revolt.
Okay, so the revolt didn't just happen overnight. It kind of unfolded in stages, and it all started with a really crucial promise from the British. The deal was, if the Arabs rose up and fought the Ottomans, the British would back an independent Arab state. So boom, June 1916, the revolt is officially on. And for 2 years, Arab forces waged this brilliant guerrilla war, harassing Ottoman troops, helping the Allied war effort, until finally the empire agrees to an armistice.
And you can't talk about this without talking about this one fascinating character who was right at the heart of the campaign, T.E. Lawrence. He was this British scholar and intelligence officer who became this vital link to the Arab forces. His crazy, daring raids and his sharp strategic mind made him a hero to the Arabs and, of course, a total legend back home. He's the man who would become known forever as Lawrence of Arabia.
So the Arabs fought, they bled, and they did it all believing they were fighting for their own nation. But, and this is a huge but, while Britain was out there publicly supporting their cause, they were secretly playing a very, very different game behind closed doors.
And let's be really clear about what that promise was. The deal, which was all laid out in letters with the Arab leader Sharif Hussein, was super straightforward. You help us defeat the Ottomans, and you will get your independence. I mean, that was the entire foundation of the Arab-British alliance. Simple as that.
Okay, and this right here reveals the jaw-dropping contradiction. On one hand, you've got the public promise to the Arabs, but on the other, the secret Sykes-Picot Agreement. So, at the exact same time Britain was promising independence, they were literally in a back room with France, drawing lines on a map, carving up the future Arab state for themselves. They were basically creating the rough blueprints for what we now know as Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. You can imagine when the Arabs eventually found out about this, they were absolutely and understandably furious.
So, okay, the war's over. The Ottoman Empire is defeated. And this leaves a massive question hanging in the air. Which vision for the Middle East is going to win out? Is it going to be the promise of an independent Arab nation, or is it going to be the secret colonial plan cooked up by the European powers? Well, after the war, we got our answer. The conflict was resolved, and the map of the Middle East was about to be completely redrawn. But not by the people who actually lived there. No, it was going to be redrawn by the victorious powers sitting in conference rooms in Europe.
And the Treaty of Sèvres in 1920 made it all official. The Ottoman Empire was gone for good. So what took its place? Well, that secret Sykes-Picot plan became reality. Britain and France took control of the Arab heartlands, calling them mandates, which, let's be honest, was kind of a sanitized term for colonial rule, a way to make it sound better to a world that was getting tired of old-school empires. For the Arabs, the dream of a big, unified state was just
shattered. But hold on, there was one group that absolutely refused to accept this new order: the Turks themselves. Out of the ashes of the old empire, a new and powerful force rose up: Turkish nationalism. And it was led by this man, Mustafa Kemal, who would later be known as Atatürk, which means father of the Turks. He forged a brand new nation completely in defiance of the Allies. He flat out rejected the Treaty of Sèvres, he led a war for Turkish independence, he physically drove out the foreign troops, and then he abolished the 600-year-old sultanate. In its place, he built a modern, secular republic. The message was clear: Turkey was going to be for the Turks. So while Turkey successfully forged its own destiny, the Arab world was left to deal with the messy consequences of this post-war settlement. And believe me, those consequences created a legacy of conflict that we can still hear echoing today. I mean, just try to put yourself in their shoes. For the Arab nationalists who had fought and died right alongside Lawrence of Arabia, this outcome was nothing less than a profound betrayal. It felt like they had just traded one empire for another. All their hopes for a single independent nation, gone, dashed by the stroke of a pen in some European capital. And this new map, it created instability right from the get-go. The Arab world was totally fragmented into these new states, all under foreign control. You had new leaders like Ibn Saud who emerged to build their own kingdoms. Then you've got Palestine, where another conflicting British promise, the Balfour Declaration, which supported a Jewish national home, laid the groundwork for a conflict that is still tragically unresolved today. Even Arab nationalism itself had to evolve. It became much more focused on anti-imperialism and social revolution. So it's pretty wild to think about, right? The decisions made after this one empire collapsed 100 years ago are still so much with us. And it really makes you wonder, how do these lines, drawn in the sand by foreign powers so long ago, continue to shape not just the region, but our entire world today?